Before we get started, from now until May 22nd, I am running a giveaway for a free signed copy of The Littlest Elephant by Katherine Applegate. Follow the link in the description and subscribe there to enter. Must be within the United States to be eligible to win. And thank you for listening. Welcome to the Book Fair podcast. My name is Anthony, and this week we have a look at librarians running for state political offices across the country. We also have a new publishing imprint promoting early reading books, and a look at the numbers from the Books Unbanned library campaign. Coming this Friday, we have an interview with Dr. Sanjay Juneja, author of the newly released book, We Need to Talk About Cancer. Let's begin this week by looking at new releases, starting with Willi Ninja Vogue Legend by Joy Michael Ellison and illustrated by Nabi H. Ali. In a stunning celebratory biography of dancer and choreographer Willi Ninja, known as the grandfather of Vogue, Ellison and Ali follow him from his beginnings as a queen's child whose wonderful imagination electrified his body. With his mother's encouragement and regular visits to the Apollo Theater, Ninja begins to consider his future, and the more he dreamed, the more he danced. The protagonist eventually joins a group of gay dancers in the park, where he learns about ball culture and Vogue. Hyper-realistic, energy-filled digital paintings showcase Ninja against contextualizing backdrops. In one spread, a proscenium stage is set within a young daydreaming ninja's mind. Via affirming text and radiant dynamic illustrations, the creators conjure the spirit of one icon's contributions. Characters are intersectionally diverse, back matter offers more information, and this book is recommended for ages 6 to 9. Next is Wombat Waiting by Katherine Applegate, featuring illustrations by Jen Bricking. In this wholesome verse novel by Applegate, based on a true story, a small stray dog scrapes out a living in a local park when Santa Ana winds ignite a devastating wildfire that sets the canine on a collision course with a similarly affected human family. Though instinct urges the dog to flee from the fire as it approaches the park, a voice, soft and sure, draws her toward the blaze. Meanwhile, tween Henry Cooper, his two mothers, and his younger sister are forced to evacuate their homes for shelter. Henry loves helping his veterinarian Mama Rowe at a wildlife center, but a past trauma has left him wary of dogs. As fate nudges Boy and Pooch toward each other, both must decide whether they are ready to trust. The canine's endearing restlessness and aching to belong makes for a winning protagonist. While a happy ending is telegraphed early on, the narrative remains charged with harrowing descriptions of the disaster drawn from Southern California's recent fires, balanced by an undercurrent of hope. Expressive, realistic black and white illustrations from Bricking amplify the emotional resonance. Henry is described as having light brown skin, and this book is recommended for ages 8 to 12. Next is Brainstormerz number 1, Money Talks by Kwame Alexander and Cassidy Dyce, and illustrated by Rashad Doucet. Three besties work together to help each other succeed in this energetic graphic novel series opener from Alexander and debut author Dyce. 9-year-old Lex often feels like he's drowning in a sea of words, particularly because his independent bookstore owner parents insist that he learn a new word every day. Lex finds reprieve from his parents' academic expectations by hanging out with his friends, entrepreneurial Cass and artistic goofball DJ. After Lex requests a new phone for his upcoming 10th birthday, and his parents deem it is too expensive, the friends endeavor to buy it themselves. Each money-making venture seems to create more problems than it solves. The trio accidentally substitute laxatives for chocolate in their bake sale brownies. They prove no match for the dogs they attempt to walk, and their magic performance is thwarted by an already existing magic club. And while making Valentine's proves lucrative, Lex's worries about the family bookstore's struggles and their effect on his parents' relationship send his desire for a new phone into the background. Expressive, character-focused art by Doucet highlights movement, injecting dynamism into the straightforward plot. The cast is rendered with various skin tones, and this book is recommended for ages 8 to 12. Next is Listen to the Girls by Chrystal D. Giles. In this potent, socially attuned novel from Giles, dreams of a carefree summer vacation seem out of reach when a black middle schooler discovers that her teacher has a history of sexual harassment complaints. North Carolina 7th grader Kala Howard is excited to celebrate the long break ahead, but the mood shifts when her beloved teacher, Mr. Chavez, is abruptly removed from school grounds following reports from local YouTuber Ebony News, who alleges that the teacher engaged in inappropriate conduct with students at his previous school. Though Kala struggles to reconcile the accusations with the person she admired, she also feels unsettled by community members' assumptions that the claims are false. When Ebony News is forced to remove their post about Mr. Chavez, Kala and her friends create an anonymous social media account to amplify the voices of his victims and encourage others to speak out. As Kala learns more about the survivors' experiences, she begins comparing their stories with her own memories. Giles approaches a difficult subject with care, utilizing clear, compassionate language to help readers understand how manipulation by trusted adults can occur and how speaking out can begin the process of reclaiming agency. The result is a thoughtful, timely exploration of courage and the power of collective voices. This book is recommended for ages 10 and up. Next is Change of Plans by Sara Dessen. Dessen serves up a warm summer romance that's a fortifying interpretation of self-transformation. Though recent high school graduate Finley Hope intends to spend most of the summer with her charismatic boyfriend Colin Frisbee before following him to a state college, she must first endure an annual 2-week visit with her emotionally distant mother in New York City. But a last-minute change in the pair's itinerary sees them arriving at a lakeside vacation home that the Hopes have owned for generations. And when Colin breaks up with her via video call, Finley, crestfallen and infuriated, impulsively tosses her cell phone into the lake. Forced offline, Finley distracts herself by getting a diner job, bonding with estranged family, and making new friends, including charmingly awkward line cook Ben, who might be something more than a pal. The laid-back atmosphere offers ample opportunity for Finley, a vulnerable protagonist forced to reckon with skewed self-perception, to reflect on family drama and secrets in this delightfully layered, big-hearted novel. The comedic cast cues as white, and this book is recommended for ages 12 and up. And the final title to look at this week is Holloway by Elana K. Arnold. Opening in August 2021, this complex time travel novel by Arnold plumbs an autistic teenager's endeavors to reconstruct her identity following her zealous anti-vaxxer mother's death from COVID. Art has always been a lifeline for 17-year-old Nora, who takes her mother Jillian's remains to Paris to bury them on Le Grand Jet. Disappointed by the park's current setting, Nora sets off to find the perfect spot. While camping solo through the Loire Valley, Nora relives memories of hers and Jillian's years together and revisits her mother's teachings for masking her autistic traits around others. Nora's discovery of Holloway, an ancient sunken path that acts as a portal to 1946, transports her to an asylum at St. Alban, where Nora gains a new perspective on her and Jillian's relationship. Arnold successfully renders Nora's sensory and intellectual overload through the protagonist's lyrical reflections on perception, the societal connections between post-COVID pandemic and post-World War II eras, and the making of art as essential and eternal. Posing thought-provoking questions about time, love, and relationships, it's an ambitious and immersive portrait of one neurodivergent teen's experience. Nora and Jillian are white, an author's note concludes, and this book is recommended for ages 14 and up. That covers the new releases for this week. Next, we'll be taking a look at some news. But first, if you appreciate the work being done on the Book Fair podcast, there are a number of ways to show your support. First, you can like, comment, or follow wherever you are currently listening to help push the show out to new listeners. Second, you can follow the podcast on Blue Sky, Instagram, and TikTok at BookFairPod. You can also go to patreon.com/thebookfair to find episodes posted early as well as links to news sources used throughout the show. Following on Patreon is free and there are no posts hidden behind a paywall. Of course, the best way to help the Book Fair podcast is simply to share it with a friend, an educator, or a young reader in your life. Now, on with the show. Next, let's take a look at some news, starting with a quick story from the Reading League, launching an imprint teaching phonics to pre-K through second grade. The Reading League is a nonprofit organization founded by educators and reading experts dedicated to advancing reading instruction. Launching this summer, the Reading League Press is introducing its first suite of books available for educators. The Read, Then Peak series, according to the Reading League Press, is a comprehensive guide to early literacy education. CEO of Reading League Press, Maria Murray, said in an interview with Publishers Weekly, quote, "Every title that TRL Press publishes will be reviewed for research alignment, quality, and instructional purpose, so educators and parents can reach for materials with confidence." End quote. Read Then Peak was developed as a 30-book series that emphasizes letters and sounds before advancing to visual cues. Typical early reading books include images to reinforce literacy and understanding, but these create a reliance on sight words instead of learning the sounds of letters and the structures of words. With Read Then Peak, children first read the words by blending learned sounds before revealing corresponding artwork. Murray noted that the benefits of prompting readers to focus on letters and sounds and rewarding them with confirmation as opposed to guesswork. The Reading League will utilize its national chapters and educator community via various events and partnerships. The debut series from the Reading League Press is available for pre-order, with shipments beginning June 15th. Books are sold as a set meant for classroom instruction. As of now, there are no options for individual purchases of titles. Unless you are a part of a homeschool network or a teacher, I do not recommend purchasing these books just yet. This resource is marketed for educators in a classroom setting, but hopefully there will be additional products available from the Reading League Press for individual sale. Next, a Texas college has issued a ban on writing LGBTQ+ topics. This story comes from Aaron in the Morning. I recommend checking them out at aaroninthemorning.com. A new memo at Texas Tech University establishes a censorship policy toward LGBTQ+ people, creating a campus equivalent of Don't Say Gay. The memo bars professors from discussing LGBTQ+ topics in core and lower-level courses and eliminates entire fields of study across the university system. It requires that if an industry-standard textbook includes content on sexual orientation or gender identity, instructors must skip over it and avoid discussion around the topic. This memo was issued by Chancellor Brandon Creighton, a former Republican Texas senator who authored the state's ban on diversity, equity, and inclusion programs at public universities and a campus protest restriction law that a federal judge blocked as unconstitutional. The newest policy is already being implemented. Academic officers at each of the 5 campuses that make up Texas Tech University must submit finalized lists of programs to be eliminated to the Chancellor's office by June 15, 2026. Next is a profile piece on several librarians running for state offices. This comes from Book Riot, a frequent source for news stories on the Book Fair podcast. No affiliation, I just love their reporting. House District 136 in Maine, Michelle Connors is the executive director for Kennebunk Free Library. The election is taking place on June 9, 2026. Her statement on Book Riot reads, quote, "Running for office was never something that I had considered until the day I was called and asked to do so." End quote. Her priorities are stated as, quote, "to bring people together both across the aisle, at the State House, and in my community. I'd like to facilitate the opportunities to talk about things that connect instead of divide people. For example, the topic could be about caring for a sick or aging loved one." End quote. Matt Guile, running for Vermont State House of Representatives, his primary is set for August 11th, 2026. He currently works as a librarian in Winooski School District. When asked about his priorities for the position, if he were to be elected, Guile responded, quote, "ICE's indiscriminate and brutal actions have created immense fear in Winooski. Too many people have experienced direct harm. I want to keep ICE out of our schools, hospitals, and government buildings. Families should be free to get medical treatment, attend school, or work and live their lives without fear." End quote. India May is running for the Iowa House of Representatives, District 58. She is a former library director, specific branch not stated. Her election is set for June 2nd, 2026. When asked for her priorities for this position, India said, quote, "My first priority is to stop the corporate grifts that have happened through the Iowa State House, especially relating to potentially illegally denied health care by privatized Medicaid companies." End quote. These are just a few of the librarians running for elections covered by Book Riot, and their statements have been condensed for time. So if you are interested in learning more about this story, you can find a direct link to the article at patreon.com/thebookfair. Next, a story from North Carolina, where a bill to outlaw books with LGBTQ+ themes has been introduced. Following a recent House of Representatives Oversight Committee hearing, a bill to outlaw books with LGBTQ+ themes was introduced by a Republican legislator in an effort to broaden the Parents' Bill of Rights and take aim at Chapel Hill, Carrboro City Schools. Superintendent Rodney Trice and CHCCS Director of Libraries Al MacArthur were called for testimony as legislators questioned whether 63 books with LGBTQ+ themes or representation violated North Carolina's Parental Bill of Rights, which outlines that instruction on gender identity, sexual activity, or sexuality is prohibited in curriculum for K-4 students. Co-chair of the committee, Representative Brendan Jones, introduced a new bill to clarify library materials as under the purview of state law, as opposed to local selection by library professionals and educators. Jones referred to the inclusion of these titles as indoctrination and stripping parents of their rights to raise their own children the way they see fit. 3 different titles are looked at in this article from chapelboro.com. One of these is the picture book of a young trans boy named Call Me Max by former guest of the Book Fair podcast, Kyle Lukoff. Brendan Jones, speaking on titles like Call Me Max and others from a December meeting, said, quote, "They should be in the trash," end quote. A number of authors have responded to the ongoing conflict in Chapel Hill, Carrboro. Kyle Lukoff, author of Call Me Max, said, quote, "It's really weird to get both profound praise and the knowledge this book is helping people and changing lives with, on the other hand, being told it's filth, that it's dangerous, and me being accused of all kinds of terrible things, just for being a trans person and just for writing these books," end quote. Another title attacked by Chapel Hill Carborough City Schools is "'Twas the Night Before Pride" by Joanna McClintock. Their statement to Chapel Borough says, quote, "You know this thing that Brendan Jones wrote on X. The most concerning aspect of the book is that it's actively promoting bringing babies to pride parades." And I'm like, yes, I am actually promoting bringing babies to pride parades because I go to Pride. It's my identity's celebration space. End quote. The third author to respond is Megan Madison, co-author of Together, A First Conversation About Love. Quote, "Our children, our young people, crave information that reflects their lives and helps them understand what's going on in the world. And when we restrict access to that, it actually makes learning to read not as interesting and not as fun. And it makes screens and all the other things we worry about more attractive as ways to escape the current crisis we're currently in. So it makes me sad and angry and worried for our future." End quote. And now finishing this week's episode with some positive news. Over 28,000 young people across the United States have gotten a Seattle Public Library card as part of a campaign from Books Unbanned. The Seattle Public Library joined with the organization in 2023 and allows young people to receive a free library card to access ebooks even if they don't live in Seattle. The Books Unbanned program was started by the Brooklyn Public Library in 2022, aimed at those with underfunded library systems where book bans have been rising in recent years. Anyone aged 13 to 26 in the United States can apply for an SPL card and access its digital catalog through the Libby app. The Boston Public Library, Los Angeles County Library, Long Beach Library, and San Diego Public Library also participate through Books Unbanned, though age and eligibility vary depending on each institution. SPL's Books Unbanned card has seen 18,085 annual renewals since 2023. The program costs between $350,000 and $375,000 annually and is funded by the Seattle Public Library Foundation. To find a full list of participating libraries and explore eligibility for a young reader in your life, check out booksunbanned.com. This will conclude another episode of the Book Fair podcast. Coming this Friday, we have an interview with Dr. Sanjay Juneja. If you'd like to stay up to date with the show, you can follow wherever you are currently listening or on Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky at Book Fair Pod. If you'd like to help the Book Fair podcast grow, you can also go to patreon.com/thebookfair. Following on Patreon is free, and there are no posts hidden behind a paywall. You can find links to news sources as well as episodes posted early. Simply add the RSS feed to your preferred podcast platform. Of course, the best way to help the Book Fair podcast is simply to share it with a friend, an educator, or a young reader in your life. Thank you so very much for listening, and as always, I'll talk to you next time.